Canada has banned foreigners from buying houses. Now, the ban won't last forever. Within 2 years, Canada's national ban on housing for foreigners will end, and the foreigners' ability to buy houses in Canada will return to normal. Meanwhile, foreigners who aren't Canadian citizens won't be able to buy houses between the years 2023 and 2025. One of the biggest triggers of this ban was the rise in property prices after the pandemic. The real estate market in Canada has always been unaffordable, with $500,000 being the average home price. That isn't a surprise. Sky-high prices have put house ownership out of many Canadians' reach for many years. Housing affordability is a concern felt by many Canadians. In 2021, a poll made by the Royal Bank of Canada revealed non-home buyers under 40 years old have given up hope of being a homeowner. Many are unable to afford a home in Canada and rely on rents to find a place to live. The average Canadian would have to choose another less populated city in Canada if they want to buy a house. It's near impossible for new home buyers to own a home in the most popular cities in Canada. Getting a home in Vancouver, Toronto, or British Columbia is very difficult unless the home buyer is among the top earners in the country. Why are house prices in Canada so high? The housing crisis has been troubling Canadians for years now, but the pandemic worsened the situation. Low interest rates and higher disposable incomes as a result of being stuck at home led Canadian home prices to skyrocket to levels never before seen. Canada's government believes the new housing ban will make housing more affordable for Canadians. There are a variety of factors which cause Canadian house prices to spike. Foreign home buyers was a popular one. As foreign home buyers scoop up property, there's less supply for Canadian locals. There's been a lot of blame placed upon the wealthy Chinese from mainland China who are buying up all the housing in Vancouver. Many leave their luxury properties empty and unused, prompting unhappy Canadians to question if they should even be allowed to buy a home in Canada. According to the Canadian Housing Statistics Program, over 1 in 10 non-resident homeowners bought multiple homes in Canada, reducing supply and raising home prices. These words from Canada's housing minister exemplifies the government's stance on housing. Homes should not be commodities. Homes are meant to be lived in, a place where families can lay down roots, create memories, and build life together. A sentiment shared by many Canadians. Foreign buyers aren't the only ones to blame though. The Canadian Housing States program shows non-residents only own about 2 to 6% of Canadian residential homes in 2020. The Canadian rental economy is also a problem. A significant amount of Canadians rent their homes from landlords. Rents have risen together with home prices. So much of a renter's income is now used for rent that they are unable to put aside savings towards owning a home. According to the Royal Bank of Canada, over 60% of household income is necessary to cover homeownership costs in Canada. In 2021, the Canadian Real Estate Association said the national average cost to buy a home had reached a record $500,000, which is equivalent to 700,000 Canadian dollars. By the end of 2022, Canadian workers need an income of at least $268,000 to qualify for a mortgage, so the interest rate hikes that were done to control inflation made it worse for first-time home buyers who need loans to buy a house in Canada. While there is still uncertainty about whether Canada's new ban will cool the housing market, the new laws signify the Canadian government's willingness to take on risk for the sake of affordable housing for all. In addition, Canada faces high immigration numbers each year. Everyone knows how inviting Canada is to foreigners. The country loves issuing visas to people outside of Canada. The high immigration numbers won't stop anytime soon, as Canada needs more people moving into Canada to deal with labor shortages within the country. Unfortunately, more people coming in also means more people competing for limited housing. There's also the issue with the generational labor shortage, which are stopping housing developments from going forward. Ontario in particular needs 1.5 million new homes in 10 years, but they need 100,000 new skilled workers to build those houses. Companies have had to reject building projects because they can't find enough skilled tradesmen. There's too much work and not enough workers. The Canadian ban on home sales clearly targets non-Canadians and foreign corporations. However, the government has some exemptions that allow non-Canadians to buy homes in residential areas. Some exempt groups include non-Canadians who already have a spouse, meaning a wife or husband or a common law partner who is either a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. Aside from them, international students, diplomats, and people with temporary work permits and refugees are still allowed to buy property if they meet certain criteria. The only ones unaffected by the housing ban are Canadian citizens and permanent residents. If any non-Canadian buys the house illegally within the 2-year housing ban, they will be fined up to $10,000 and will be forced to sell the property they purchased. Foreign buyers will need to wait till the year 2025 before they can start piling money back into the Canadian property market again. The logic is the ban will buy time for housing prices to cool and stabilize as Canadians gather funds to buy homes. Banning foreigners from buying new houses isn't the only way the Canadian government is using to fix Canada's housing market. In 2017, Canada introduced a 10-year plan to build new houses for Canadians with low incomes. This national housing strategy is the first of its kind in Canada. The plan involves a multi-billion-dollar spending budget for houses, tax benefits, and more incentives for first-time home buyers.
Another key piece of the new national housing strategy is a $4 billion Canada housing benefit.
Canada has other strategies underway. Canada introduced an underused housing tax, where foreign owners have to pay a 1% tax on the value of homes considered underused or vacant. It's meant to stop foreigners from parking money in residential property without living in them. While this is capable of stopping foreign buyers, especially the ones from China buying up all the vacant homes in Canada, Canada is facing problems from a surprising source. US citizens who have homes in Canada are unhappy with Canada's new laws.
American owners say the rules are confusing and unfair. The tax on this cottage, owned by one family for more than 80 years, will be around $10,000.
I feel like they want us to leave, and it's a sad feeling. And I know I'm not alone in feeling that.
They called the rules confusing and unfair. Who wouldn't be when 1% of the $1 million home in Canada means $10,000 in taxes Americans will have to pay to the Canadian Tax Agency. The new underused housing tax in Canada has many exemptions to help seasonal house owners of Canada avoid the tax, but it doesn't cover some vacation communities near the US-Canadian border. American politicians are threatening to fight Canada over this 1% tax if the exemptions remain unchanged.
We will explore the possibility of doing an in-kind policy as it relates to Canadian citizens who own property in the United States.
So far, Canada is seeing a slowing demand for housing because of cost issues and rising interest rates that have caused some house prices to drop slightly. On the other hand, rising mortgage interest rates mean more Canadians won't be able to take on those higher interest rate payments or pass the mortgage stress tests. Lower housing prices don't matter much if the banks think you won't be able to pay the higher monthly mortgage payments. So many Canadians still can't purchase a home. Canada clearly has many obstacles, both horrifying and strange, that it needs to overcome on its way to becoming an affordable housing paradise that many Canadians want it to be. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.